A Soviet pilot once stole one of the most secret fighter jets in the world and flew it straight into Western hands. On September 6, 1976, something happened that the Soviet Union had always feared. One of its own pilots would steal one of the most secret fighter jets in the world and deliver it straight into Western hands. The pilot's name was Viktor Belenko, a young officer in the Soviet Air Defense Forces. At the time, he was flying one of the most mysterious aircraft ever built, the MiG-25. In the 1970s, Western intelligence knew almost nothing about this aircraft. Satellite photos showed a huge, incredibly fast interceptor, capable of reaching extreme altitudes. Some experts believed it was nearly unstoppable. American analysts feared the MiG-25 could outrun and outclimb anything NATO had. Rumors suggested it could fly faster than Mach 3 and carry powerful radar systems that could detect targets hundreds of kilometers away. But there was one thing the West did not have: a real MiG-25 to examine. And that was about to change. Viktor Belenko had become deeply disillusioned with life in the Soviet Union. Like many pilots, he lived under strict control, constant surveillance, and political pressure. Over time, he began to imagine something almost impossible: escaping to the West. But escaping the Soviet Union was incredibly difficult. Borders were heavily guarded, and defectors faced extreme risks. Unless you had something very unusual: a supersonic fighter jet. On the morning of September 6, 1976, Belenko took off from an airbase in the Soviet Far East for what appeared to be a routine training flight. Everything seemed normal, until suddenly he broke formation. Instead of returning to base, Belenko pushed the MiG-25 lower and lower, flying just above the ground to avoid Soviet radar. The plan was extremely dangerous. The MiG-25 was designed for high-altitude interception, not low-level flight. At high speed and low altitude, even a small mistake could be fatal. But Belenko kept going. His destination was Japan. As he crossed the Sea of Japan, a new problem appeared: fuel. Because of the low-altitude flight, the MiG-25 had burned far more fuel than expected. When Belenko finally reached Japan, his tanks were almost empty. Then he saw it: a small civilian airport in the city of Hakodate. There was one problem: the runway was much too short for a heavy interceptor like the MiG-25. But he had no other choice. Belenko lowered the landing gear and began the most dangerous landing of his life. The jet slammed onto the runway at high speed. The tires burst. Smoke filled the air as the massive aircraft finally screeched to a stop near the end of the runway. For a moment, everything was silent. Then the cockpit opened. Viktor Belenko climbed out and immediately asked for political asylum. The Soviet Union was furious, but the damage had already been done. For the first time in history, Western engineers were able to examine the MiG-25 up close. What they discovered surprised many analysts. The aircraft was incredibly fast, but it relied on simpler technology than expected. Its radar systems were powerful, but not as advanced as Western intelligence had feared. Eventually, the aircraft was returned to the Soviet Union, in pieces. But by then, the secrets of the MiG-25 had already been revealed. And all because one pilot decided to risk everything for freedom.